still would have grammar. It would have intercultural learning, authentic text, the use of authentic text, really active learning by kids. We wanted to have a potential community service component in every unit. And mostly we wanted to maximize our location in New Haven as a multicultural community. So then we really sat and thought about this in particular, and about how the community standard of the 5 C's is the one that we don't talk about much, but actually it is the goal of teaching, right? Of teaching languages, the ability to communicate and interact with cultural competence in order to participate in multilingual communities at home and in the world. That is the assessment. That's the ultimate assessment, right? So we started feeling that that really was our goal, and we wanted to bring that to students right from level 1. And I'm not sure if you've actually read the 5 C's lately, but if you go back and read them, there's really 2 components to that. One is them using the language within and beyond the classroom to interact and collaborate. And the other is this, that when the first standards first came out in 1996, we all just laughed, like we thought this sounded, but this idea that lifelong learning is a standard is a really beautiful, I think. And it's this idea that they're going to set goals, they're going to reflect on their own progress, but that they're going to use languages themselves for enjoyment, enrichment, and advancement. And we want our kids out there doing that in our communities. So these were kind of the things that drove us as we wrote. I want to just pause for a second now and think about that word community, because boy, everybody throws that word around nowadays, right? From politicians to teachers to whoever, what is a community? So we sat there and we thought, there's really different levels of communities, and depending on where the kids are in their language ability or the access that you have, it could be as simple as your classroom community. So if we go back to that standard we were just looking at, we want them using the language within and beyond the classroom, right? So one is first your classroom community, and we wanted to be really careful about cultivating the feeling of real community in the classroom with our curriculum. Then there's the school community. So within our schools, we not only have other peers, but we have people working in our schools who speak all these languages also, and we wanted to be sure we include them when we think about every aspect of the curriculum. Then we've got our local area, for us, New Haven, for you, New York. And then, of course, we've got the world. So we want to make sure that we're not just like the elephant, right? We're not just focusing on one area of this community. We want to keep moving back and thinking, okay, I've gotten really good at local area, but have I done anything to have the kids interact with the world lately, or at least view videos from the world or read things from the world? Or maybe I've been doing all stuff focused on France, but have I done anything lately about the Francophone community in New York? Things like that. So I think that's really helpful to keep in mind. So based on all that, what kinds of things do you think we included? And maybe you don't know the units, but what kinds of topics do you think we included in our curriculum? Although I think you all probably already went on the handout. But what were some things you might include if you were going to go this route? Did I put them all to sleep? Okay, the environment. Oh, me and my family. Nice. Shopping, home, restaurants, professions, community businesses, traveling, school, celebrations, school. Fascinating. Immigration. Community leaders. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. We didn't include community leaders, but we should. Human rights issues. So I will say that I'm not sure if I have a slide of it, but I can certainly show you what the 4-year curriculum looks like, levels 1 through 4. And some of these things you're mentioning do come up in our levels 2 and 3 and 4 curriculum. But for level 1, what we landed on was, first of all, only 5 units. And the first unit is quite short. So we got rid of that whole idea of the teachers trying to do 8 units in 1 year. So we went bigger and deeper. The first unit establishes, I think I'm going to tell you more about this in a second, but the first unit establishes that classroom community. And actually, this is the unit that we were required to build by my bosses as a re-entry unit. So all of us did re-entry units when we brought the kids back to school after COVID. And we designed this unit called Lift Up and Lift Off that I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. Then we have one called The World, New Haven, and Me, which we'll talk about in a second. So I would say that something notable is that we do not start with the old, like, well, we do start with what's your name, but like the how old are you, all that stuff, you know, what's your favorite school subject, all that. We don't start with that. We go right out into the community building sort of notion. Making connections is where we go back and talk about the sort of who are you, who do you want to represent on social media, how do you connect? We kept foods because it's, of course, the most popular unit in terms of engagement. And we kept our sort of travel unit last because, again, teachers felt that that was the most engaging for the kids, but we changed our slant on it to include New Haven and to include what kids are doing out in New Haven. And then we came up with these year-long essential questions. How can I participate in the target language community in New Haven and the world? How does knowing another language help me to make friends and get things done in my community and the world? And remember, this is only level 1. This isn't all our units. I will tell you, because I saw in the chat that we have an immigration unit in level 2 that we've had for a while that we really love. We have a human rights unit as the first unit in level 4, which we also really love. So that one is in there. So I'll tell you just a little bit about each of these units. The first one is this, like I mentioned, this sort of re-entry unit. To be honest with you, now that I've taught it, I taught it myself this year too, and I spent a lot of time on this, and it was great, except that with the block schedule in high school, boy, it takes like a month to do anything even short. So I think we're discussing sprinkling this unit throughout the year as part of our daily routine, as part of our opening routine instead, because even with this, with 5 units, it's hard. So I think we're going to go to 4 units. We have 4 quarters, 4 units, and then this one becomes sprinkled throughout the year. But we really love this one because it teaches students how to talk about like emotions, like happy, sad, all of that. But it also teaches them how to talk about things like what makes you happy or sad. So things like funny, interesting, boring. And so we look at all different like clips and videos and things from TikTok, and then the kids just make comments on them. And the best part is the videos they're watching can be from any language. So we were able to share lift up videos, we call them, or lift up pictures, even like pictures of like, you know, the cat that makes friends with the chicken and stuff like that, show it to the kids and have them make comments on it. Because when you think about it, the number one thing kids want to be able to do today, and that they sort of have to be able to do today, is make comments about things they see. And so we grounded it in that. Online, on social media, in the world, in New Haven, if they see something, they need to be able to say, oh my gosh, that's funny. Oh, I love that. Or, you know, so we teach them likes and dislikes and commenting, and how to think about from a social emotional perspective, how do I when I'm sad, how do I lift myself up? So we have teachers creating Padlets with the kids where the kids all submit videos and GIFs or GIFs or however you say it, and photos to the Padlet that are, like one teacher called it mis palabras positivas. So it's like they can go in and just when they're feeling sad, look at this Padlet, and there's all kinds of funny videos and things like that on it. And of course, you set the Padlet so that you have to check what the student posted before his posts. And then we also talk about how do people lift themselves up? Like, so what are things people do for fun? What are things they love in the target culture? So it really gives kids the ability to engage with anything you might say in class from the first weeks. So, you know, it gives kids those words they want to say, like, this is boring, this is difficult, this is interesting, this is fun. So I found it was very useful for the kids to have these words all year. Now, our first real unit, our long unit, is The World, New Haven, and Me. And this is the one I'm actually going to give you today. And so we'll talk quite a bit more about this later. But, you know, this one is when we're getting right into New Haven right away, community buildings and language names, where languages are spoken, and we teach them which languages are spoken in New Haven. And our essential questions are really similar to our year-long ones. How can I use this language and culture to participate in the world? how can I use it to interact with target language speakers in New Haven? And because we went to 5 units now, our middle schools have even more time per unit. So now my middle schools actually have like half a year to do this unit. So we built project-based learning style projects for their second quarter. And for this unit, the extension is, how do we make a city more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable? And so we have the kids building or designing their own cities that are based in sort of sustainability. So they're making, parks and bike paths and recycling centers and things, and they're just naming those things in the target language and presenting it to peers. Then our next unit is making connections. So this is where you get more into the like all about me type of stuff. But our essential questions are, who is important to me and what is important to me? And instead of talking about families, I don't think I have this on a slide. Do I? No. But we talk about circles of care. So it works really nicely to, so the kid kind of puts themselves in the middle of the circle, and then they brainstorm who are the people that are important to them. So we teach family, but we also in the same lessons teach coach, advisor, religious leader, let me think about it. Oh, teacher, we have all those kinds of words as well, right alongside it as vocabulary, so that students can tell you who really is important to them. And I see a question in the chat. So let me say, my middle school programs range from twice a week to 5 days a week. So that's another reason why, like I said, this unit here, like our units, now that we went down to basically 4 with that mini unit, 4 units a year, it gives you, like, you could do this in twice a week in a half a year, right? So, but the kids won't stay with you if you keep calling it the same thing, because they get kind of tired of it. So what we did was, like I said, we create sort of secondary units based somewhat in the same theme that allow middle school teachers to kind of extend this, but go much deeper. So for this one, our extension has to do with kind of like reading and writing about yourself. And also we purchased, so for example, like writing poetry about yourself and your friends, and them doing like a poetry slam. Or we also purchased a whole bunch of novels that are not learner novels, not TPRS type novels, but novels that are quite simple, but meant for heritage native speakers. And the teachers are doing some of those novels with the students as well. So depending on the levels they have in their classes. So then our third unit is that very popular Foods in New Haven, Foods in the World unit. And this one, we focus on we have a big, of course, food culture in New Haven. We have the food trucks and all that stuff. And we also made as our follow-up unit, food insecurity, and how to help out the food banks and things like that. So we have all these resources for the middle school teachers or high school teachers who want to start in that direction, to go and focus on food insecurity as their sort of core of the theme. And that gets back to those UN Sustainable Development Goals and justice and things like that. And then finally, our travel one is your pure sort of joyous, let me think about planning a trip type of thing. But we also have students, if you really think about it, our students are not in level 1. If they never take language again, they're not going to be asked to give directions, long directions, right? They're not going to be asked to do certain things that we often make them practice in level 1, but they might have to give a simple direction or have a quick conversation with someone at a bus stop or someone who needs a quick direction to somewhere in the city, in our city, right? So we try to be very careful to think about, how could I help someone who's in New York, right? Or New Haven, right? How could I help out someone? And how do I need to prepare to travel to another country? So you might notice, what topics did we don't use this URL, sorry, I forgot to take it off. What topics did we exclude? I'm curious. You may have noticed we took out school. Now I know that's like, oh, shocker, but teachers who love it could put it back in making connections. They can have a quick conversation about like, what's your favorite subject? Also, we have middle school programs that start in 6th grade. So we pushed that unit to 6th grade if they want to do it. We have a beautiful sort of schools around the world unit where they compare different schools around the world. But we just felt that like too much time was being spent with kids talking about school schedules or talking about it. And they just aren't that interested. They weren't that interested because first of all, every kid in the class has the same schedule. So it's not interesting to ask each other your schedule. Every kid in the class in level 1 anyway, is if they're freshmen or if they're 8th graders or 7th graders, has similar requirements. So it was really so we really sat there and had very frank conversations about what were the things that would interest them the most. Because as far as we're concerned, the purpose of level 1, and this is like, I'll die on this hill. The purpose of level 1 is to make them feel successful and to make them fall in love with your language. It's not to teach them every single thing, because they're going to go to 2 and hopefully, right, if we help them to fall in love, they're going to go to 3, they're going to go to 4. And we really need them, especially in level 1. And I would also argue in level 2 to fall in love with language. So we're going to do the top things they want to do and the top things they want to talk about. So anyway, so why would we ground our instruction this way in community-based experiences? So what does it kind of include, right? So for us, when we talk to teachers about how to teach these units, we talk a lot about role play. So role playing what might happen if you walk into a store in New Haven and a convenience store, and the clerk speaks Arabic or the clerk speaks Spanish. And so I did a convenience store role play with my kids too. So, we want them to, from the very first unit, be able to say, hi, I'm learning Arabic. What's your name? And something like that. Or, hi, do you have such and such candy, that I ate in my Arabic class? We want lots of field trips. We're very lucky in New Haven that we get free buses during the day if we take the kids within New Haven or touching New Haven. And I suppose you guys could do things with, transportation wouldn't be too bad. I don't know. We want lots of guest speakers. We want people coming in, talking to the kids, seeing videos of people from the community. We want lots of service projects and even student-to-student connections. Like we have 43 schools, which is nothing compared to you guys, I know, but these kids should be talking to each other across the schools too. Nothing wrong with them using their language ability to talk to each other, do projects together, do service projects together, things like that. So here's an example. This is from our World New Haven and Me, our very first major unit. We give the kids this paper, right? We have this teachers translate what it says on the left into their language here on the right. And this is optional. It's not, we still have wear a mask there from when that was required. But we tell the kids, go to a business where they speak the language. And I'll show you in a minute, we've taught the kids where some of those are. Go with a family member, show them this paper. So we're going to have it written in Arabic or Chinese or Japanese or Spanish or French, right? And they say everything you can in the target language like we practiced in class, have them sign your paper, take a picture of yourself in front of the business and bring it back and then we can, give them a prize or give them 100 on a quiz grade or whatever you want to give them, right? And then we have them signed. We're also now that we've been able to get out in the community this year, starting to work with businesses to do some kind of coupon where the different businesses would give us coupons where the kids would get 10% off or whatever if they go to that place and, order at a restaurant and things like that in the target language. So that's one of the things we've worked on. Another thing we did was last summer with some Title IV funding, we had teachers record videos of their friends, their family members, anyone, using exactly what we wanted the kids to learn about. So I'll show you in a minute, but we have set sort of focus questions that we have for every unit because we found that the kids were not knowing how to ask questions well enough. And in the novice level, it's okay to just memorize some questions. We're not forcing like dialogues, but it's not like you memorize this and that's all you know how to say. but we are saying that every unit has a series of focus questions, which you'll see in a second in the one I give you. And so what we did was we had teachers go out and film their friends answering those questions so that these become perfectly aligned videos that they can show the kids as interpretive tasks. So as practice in class. And so all the teachers have to do then is make questions, and probably in English, because it's okay to ask kids comprehension questions in English for an interpretive task at the novice level. So here's just an example. I hope you can hear it. I hope I have this set right.
Mi nombre es Raquel López Nieves. Yo tengo 37 años. Trabajo como maestra en la ciudad de New Haven, en la escuela Nathan Hale. Yo fui a la escuela aquí en New Haven. Soy de New Haven, Connecticut. Mi familia es de Puerto Rico. Una cosa favorita de New Haven, Connecticut, de donde nací yo, es yo creo que las escuelas y la comunidad.
So the thing I love about this was filmed by a teacher at Nathan Hale School, and it's someone who works at Nathan Hale School. So now the kids are using this as their interpretive practice in their class. Now they walk down the hall and they see this lovely woman and they're like, oh, I saw you in my Spanish class. Like, that's what we want. And we also have teachers going out and filming people at restaurants and like at the taco trucks on Long Wharf. And so now when kids drive by those, or when they go to a restaurant and see, they're like, oh my goodness, you were part of my French class or my Spanish class. We also have a really wonderful refugee services in New Haven called IRIS. And so we also paid IRIS to record videos of refugees and immigrants answering the questions as well. So here's an example of that.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Divine, j'ai 21 ans, je viens de la République du Congo. Les gens qui me sont importants sont ma famille et mes amis. Je n'aime pas le sport, mais mon passe-temps préféré, c'est de regarder des dessins animés en anglais et en français. Quelque chose qui m'est cher est ma foi en Dieu. Un cas qui m'est important, c'est le droit des femmes et aussi de normaliser l'éducation des filles partout dans le monde.
So this one was for the Making Connections unit. And so she answered some different questions, but I just love that, you know, students could see this. Maybe they're out in New Haven later on and they see her and they're like, oh, miss, you know, I saw you in my French class. So that's really the beauty of it. And it's not, although it's limited and scripted in a sense that we told her what questions to answer, her answers are real. And so it's authentic. And that's one of my favorite parts of this. And then in terms of field trips, we have all kinds of, my teachers are just so creative, doing beautiful things. This is one of the senior citizen centers in New Haven that only speaks Spanish. This is Casa Otoñal. And the students go there and they play dominoes with the seniors. This teacher takes them fairly regularly. We take students to restaurants. I'm sure you do the same thing. I brought my kids to Mitsuwa Marketplace in New Jersey. So this is us with our picture here. Of course, you bring them all the way to New Jersey and they still buy these marshmallow things, you know, they could have bought something Japanese, but okay. Anyway, we had them going, the Chinese classes went and took Kung Fu lessons. These are my kids who we went to Yale, and my students who are in year 1 Japanese interacted with the Yale University students who are in Japanese. And this is my kids trying to talk to the Yale students. And it was just so cool. And they actually really loved it. And the Yale students were so kind with them. These are all kinds of things that I just had never thought about before. So, and then this is a group of students who we met. We took them to this Colombian restaurant, but this backstory is that right now, this was the beginning of a project where we have a gentleman named Hernando Diosa from Colombia, who's an immigrant who has an amazing life story. And he wrote a book called Determinación about his incredible story. And now he's working with students this is AP Spanish and Heritage Native Speaker Spanish kids after the AP class. They've been reading his book with him, and then writing their own personal stories, changing their names if they want to. And now we're going to use their stories that they wrote with him as the guide. And he's wonderful. He's like 75 years old and he's lovely like a grandpa. So they all love him. We're going to put their stories on an internal website so that all the other Spanish classes can use those stories as interpretive reading. But the beautiful part will be is it'll be students from New Haven talking about their experiences, mentioning places in New Haven, mentioning schools in New Haven, so the kids will really be able to relate. So these are all ideas that you could copy and take. This is Arabic classes going down to the local, one of the many, many local Arab food restaurants, and they also were required to order in Arabic. And so we've really been able to get back out into the community this year and pushing it. And I think that's really part of this whole, and these are all level 1 classes, which is the best part. So we also are able, and I'm sure you are, to take authentic texts and materials from the community. So things like, we have big fiestas and things. And so we bring students to those, we encourage, and we use the text from those, text like written things from those to as readings and listenings in our classes. So even something as simple as this thing on the left here, students could use as a reading, and be asked to answer questions about it. But there's so many things that they recognize. This, I believe, this is from one of our schools where whenever there's a need to create a Spanish flyer to go home, this is back from that Nathan Hale school too, where I don't know if you all know Trudy Anderson. She was Northeast Conference Teacher of the Year. She's the amazing teacher who made this on the right, I think, with her students. Whenever they have a need to send something home to parents in Spanish, she does it with her class. With the class, they translate it, create the flyer, the kids do the clip art, and then they send it home. So there's real ownership of the Spanish that's going home to parents who need it. And then here's just some other things in New Haven that teachers have used as readings for the kids. And we also make sure that we use pictures from New Haven when we're talking about things. So when we're talking about the supermarket, we have Stop and Shop on Whaley Avenue, or a church, or the train station, and things like that. So even that teeny tweak of using something that's in your community gets their attention. So let's talk a little bit about, how we roll these out. Someone asked about how big our classes are. They're anywhere from 15, because I have some small magnet schools, to 28. And mostly we do get students. We have had good luck, since we don't have to pay for buses if it's in town. The cost is only the food. So usually students can pay a $10 to $15. With grant money, I did pay for some of those trips, like the big Chinese one and the one to New Jersey, we paid for with grant money. But the kids bought their own food, I should say. So we have a website that we share all of our internal stuff to. It's closed, it's just for New Haven teachers, but for every unit, we have a unit folder, we have a unit plan. We have, so this is the important part I want you to take away from this. We have generic resources. So the truth is, if you and the other teachers in your school are teaching the same unit at the same time with just some slight differences for culture, you can share simple things like flashcards. Or if one of you collects a bunch of pictures of New York City buildings, you can share that with any teacher. You don't need to put the words on it. You can talk about it in any language. So we do a lot of that, or I'll make a lot of those materials. And then we also have language specific resources that we share across the city. So there'll be for each of these units, there's a French folder, a Spanish folder, a Chinese folder, etc. And then we have extension projects available. I also found, and I'm not sure what you think about this, but I switched from just giving teachers unit plans, which is all those words that you need, all the words when you have to go through NEASC accreditation or something like that, I switched from that to making slide-based explanations of each unit. So this just gives you an example of some of the kind of silly stuff I make. Hi, everyone. I'd like to talk to you about our new level 1 curriculum for 2021-22. You'll be so this was when we first started. I'm just going to fast forward so you can see what kind of stuff. Cultural can-do statements, which we looked at, blah, blah. So anyway, etc. Nobody likes to listen to their own voice, right? Okay.
Hi, everyone.
So
I'd like to.
But I have found that, and the other piece I would say as a suggestion is if you're struggling with writing units in a unit plan, lay it out in slides first, or lay it out on a big blank piece of paper, like a big whiteboard. That's really what we did first, and with bubbles, and it kind of helps your thinking. So what is this? Okay, so yeah, this I'm going to show you kind of a bigger example of, for each unit, I also made a slideshow. So once we did that sort of whiteboard stuff, we actually this time around, instead of using unit plans, we wrote our units using slides. And then we use those slides to like summarize the units for teachers. And then of course we still have unit plans available, which I'll show you in a second. But here's an example. So we made it, again, like we've become a visual culture. So if you can show the unit you want to teach visually, some of my teachers show this to the kids even. And I mean, that's okay with me if you want to. I mean, to me, I like to I show a few of the slides to the kids, but other than that, I like to kind of surprise them with things. But so, for example, these are our sort of, these are basically our can-do statements for the unit, but summarized and put in a visual way. So, you know, showing the teachers, showing students, if you want, what they're going to do in this unit. I'm going to leave that up for a second, but you have access to it. We also put the 5 C's, right? Our can-do statements visually. So here's these are the other 5 C's. These are the other 4 C's other than communication. These are our assessments for this unit. Again, we're not quite to the IPA sort of, it's a one packet IPA type of thinking. I'm a more make sure there's 3 modes of communication, and I'm okay with the teachers giving these at different times, but there's definitely assessments in every mode of communication. We have pacing guides, and we show the middle school teachers the types of things they could add, etc. See, because when you really lay out middle school and you think about all the things like Hispanic Heritage Month, Moon Festival, like you need a lot of extra time in your year. Right? So we've got New Year's celebration. We have a big run for refugees. We have Black History Month. So you want time to spend a little bit on each of those things. So that's why another reason we went with this 4 units over 2 years for middle school, because like you, some of my middle school programs don't meet every day. It allowed us to have all of these things. So this is 8th grade then. Okay. And we did a lot of professional development meetings about it. And now these are what the unit plans actually look like, right? So every unit plan is also quite comprehensive. And we ran academies to kind of, my teachers taught each other about how to maximize having a guest speaker, how to have it not just be like, you know, ask some questions, but what to do before, during, and after. How to do field trips. You know, if you have new teachers in your building, they don't know how to do field trips. So maybe help them out with permission slips and things like that. How to do community service, how to connect students, and how to use, we also did some PD on how to use the videos. We also created this list here of that we all share about where you can go do field trips. So with 90 teachers, why not? And so if y'all have, you know, a way to do that in your schools, why not share a list where you collate, you know, who, or even like who to talk to. For some of mine, my teachers have direct, like one of my teachers' husbands owns the Arabic restaurant Chaps, right? So we certainly have a connection there. So now I'd like to show you just a little bit about this World New Haven and Me unit. I'm going to check the chat real quick because I know I have been talking. Okay. Yep, you're going to have, I put it in earlier, but I'll put it in again, and there's links on all of it. I'd rather have you with me right now. So on the unit plan itself, you'll see that this is your old fashioned tradition, not old, but it's your traditional sort of, it has a lot of words. But if teachers do read through all this, they'll certainly get a good overview of what this unit is about. So we have a summary that you could share with parents and students. We have key concepts because that's something that the NEASC organization wants to see. And then you'll see as you go, but I'm going to just pause for a second. So we've got those generic resources for everyone, and I'm going to give you just a few examples now. So for that World New Haven and Me, here's some examples of what you could share across teachers. So for example, one of the first things we teach in this is countries and languages, because we want the kids to be able to say, I speak blank, or where are you from? So we want kids to be able to ask people where they're from and where their family's from and what languages they speak. So something like this is an interpretive task. You give the students these slides ahead of time. For example, I have a whole bunch of them, but, and then you say to the students to guess. So you say, I'm gonna do it in Japanese. So you'd be like, oh, Daniel Radcliffe-san wa doko kara kimashita ka? Igirisu kara kimashita? Canada kara kimashita? America kara kimashita? Hi, Jackie Chan-san wa doko kara kimashita ka? Egypt kara kimashita? Chugoku kara kimashita? Nihon kara kimashita? Hugh Jackman-san wa doko kara kimashita ka? オーストラリアから来ました、イギリスから来ました、アメリカから来ました。So then the kids circle what they think the answer is on their slide. And by doing it this way, they're getting all that input of not only the country name, but the sentence comes from. And then you go back and do the answers. And when you do the answers, for example, I think I'll do it with Jill. Jill, you might have to unmute. So I say, Daniel Radcliffe-san wa doko kara kimashita ka? どこだと思いますか？イギリス、カナダ、アメリカ。
彼はイギリス人と思います。
イギリスから来ました、ピンポンピンポン。And I forgot to put the answer slides in, but I would have a little circle that shows up here, right? And so now you can, so back to that target language conversation that we were having in the other session, which was so wonderful. If you keep repeating the choices, kids can speak in the language from day one. So I want all of you to quietly yell it out, not quietly, muted, but yell it out. And then I'll tell you the answer. Jackie Chan-san wa doko kara kimashita ka? Egypto, Chugoku, Nihon. そうですね。中国から来ました。So were you able to yell 中国? Oh, good. You speak Japanese. You see, so from day one, if you point to answers, visuals, kids can use the language and they start to feel successful. So Hugh Jackman-san wa オーストラリアから来ました。オーストラリア、イギリス、アメリカ。ピンポンピンポン、オーストラリアから来ました。Okay, so that's just an example of, oh, I had more. I forgot I had more. Claude Monet-san wa どこから来ましたか？イタリアから来ました。ごめん、アイルランドから来ました、メキシコから来ました、フランスから来ました。フランスから来ました。ピンポンピンポン。Okay, so those are some examples. Those are things that I could give you tomorrow and you could do in any language, those slides. Here's another one. So we put together some slides to help the students think about what are the most spoken languages in the United States, in the world, in New Haven. And so these are sort of sneaky English, where the teacher is not going to speak English, just keep speaking in your language, but the kids have are seeing some English just because these are the slides we happen to have. So, we're showing kids, I don't have everything here the way we did it, but in any case, there's some slides where the kids guess the answers to these questions, and then these are the answer slides, right? So we give them a chance to talk with their friends and guess the answers to these questions, and these are the answer slides. But I thought you'd find these interesting, that these are the most common language spoken at home other than English or Spanish. And look at that, New York State. And Connecticut is Portuguese, interesting. And we have so few Portuguese programs left. And here's New Haven. I'm sorry, Connecticut. Here's Connecticut, right? And then there's New Haven, Spanish. And our second largest is Italian, would you believe? But I think that's changing. And Pashto is going to move way up. We've had a lot more Pashto speakers. And then we have things like this. So you kids number their papers. Here's my sneaky English again. I have that, but I don't say it in English. I just point to it. Kids number their papers 1 to 15. They have a word bank of languages. So that's something you can make in any language. You have a word bank there. It says English, Japanese, Spanish, Chinese. And then you don't even need a handout. They just have a piece of paper. They've numbered it 1 to 15. I show it and I say, oh, ichiban. And now I can just speak Japanese. I just completely ad lib. Ichiban, Million Asian Market, doko desu ka? Sorry, Whitney Avenue ni arimasu ne. Wakarimasu? And I can ask them questions like, do you know it? Do you been there? Raise your hand. And they know what I'm talking about. And then I emphasize, okay, nani go hanasemasu ka? So now we're transitioning to languages. What languages do they speak? And of course, on my board, I have a paper version or a handwritten version of that word bank. So I'm going to keep saying the words, and the kids write what they think is the answer for what languages they speak. And then we always, falafel, mamoons, Jessica sensei, mamoons daisuki, mamoons tabetai ne, falafel daisuki, toka. ね、そして、これは、タコトラック大好きね。Tacos 大好き。Tacos 食べますか? Like, so you can have all these kinds of ad-libby conversations. Great moment to engage your heritage speakers. You can have a little conversation with them. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The rest of the kids, it's good for them to hear Spanish from those higher level speakers. And the other thing I want you to notice is that I'm in Japanese class, for example, but I'm teaching the kids about what languages are spoken at all these other places in New Haven. So it's a way of doing countries and languages, but you're teaching them about their own community. So French, etc. So those are just a couple examples. And then what we did was in every unit, we give the teachers some sample learning progressions. I found that one of the hardest things, someone asked this earlier in the chat, transitioning from textbook to no textbook is for new teachers, especially to know what order to teach things in. So as soon as we did that, even with our first level 1 curriculum and now with this new one, we try to give at least something to do for the first lesson and definitely other things that they can do. And then a list of sort of the order you would go in. So we wrote it in a way, you'll see it on the unit plan, but we wrote it in a way that's not necessarily like lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, but it kind of goes left to right and like generally the order you want to go in to guide them through those stages of sort of input to output to sort of assessments. Oh, I better check the chat. La, 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 la. I'm gonna do. Okay, great. All right. So you can see that there were, and we also sort of divided those learning progressions into 3 sections because this unit is so big that it really isn't possible to think about just going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in an order. And then this is an example that you'll see also in what I'm giving you of our middle school extension project. So here's that one I was talking to you about where the kids are now going to be this is the GRASPs template from the Understanding by Design people, Grant Wiggins and McTighe. And so the kids are going to pretend they're a city planner. Their clientele is a group of architects and construction contractors. Wouldn't it be great if you could get real people who speak those languages to look at the kids' projects? And then they have a large grant. They have to design a city, and it has to be safe, resilient, and sustainable. And this can all be in English, these directions, but then they have to present it by saying, all they have to be able to say is, here is a park, here is the bike path, here is this, here is that. It's very low language, but very high thinking, right? Very higher order thinking about how they're organizing it. So I really like this one for middle school or high school. So what's next? What next? We are collaborating to continue to reflect and revise. So like I said, doing that lift up unit for a whole month just isn't working for us time-wise. So we're going to spread that out over the year and then just really try to get right into that World New Haven and Me right away. We're going to offer more sort of academies to talk about these things with new teachers because we have new teachers every year, of course. We want to keep gathering authentic materials and videos, but now that we know what we want, it's much easier. It's kind of like once your closet is like the style you like, you know what to add to it, right? We've been updating our guest speaker list, and every year we reach out, and actually Yale's been so generous with us at always asking their people who's willing to come in and be our guest speakers or virtual. We want to have more cross-school field trips. And we're resuming our international travel next year, which to me is the ultimate. I would love it if every kid could get on an international trip because many of our kids, I would love it if they can get out of New Haven, first of all, but international is the ultimate goal because many of our kids haven't even left New Haven. And I have a favor to ask you that I would also like to collect more videos. So if you feel like it, I put this request on my handout. And if you would like to record a quick video of yourself or your daughter or your husband or somebody who speaks in the target language, and you'd be willing to upload it, we would love to have more videos that our teachers can show for kids to meet people from New York City. That would be great. So here is the handout. This is what it looks like. Let's see, where is it? Hold on, let me find it. Where's my thing for it? Hold on. Let me go back and grab it here. There it is. Let me put it up again for a minute. And then I would love to see in the comments so this is where the handout is, and then we'll go to the handout and see what is there. So maybe Jill-san, could you just type that in real quick one more time?
Hi, sushimasu.
Sumimasen. Okay, so now let's click on that and I'm going to show you. So everything is clickable here. The sample unit plan is linked here. So here's that unit plan and everything I was showing you. You might not have access to everything, and I'm sorry, but that's because these were things that some of these things, New Haven teachers made. So we have kind of a thing where we don't share those broadly because they worked so hard on them. But you can see what would be that. Here's the level 1 overview. You should be able to see that. So the person who was looking for the travel one, the Let's Explore the World, that'll be in there. Here's my directions if you want to record a video for us. And here's our public facing website where you can read more about New Haven Public Schools. So now I'll go back and just take a look at the chat and see if there's anything pressing that I missed here.
There was one question about when you talked about books that your district purchased, and someone asked perhaps for the list of the books that were purchased. I don't know.
That would take me. I don't know if I know where I can show it real quick. How's that? And you could take I can put a screenshot probably. I can show you some of them anyway. Let's see. I made a page for it. Here they are. Okay, here we go. These are what we've purchased so far for Spanish. I would say that I'm still working on French and I'm getting some in. It took me, my French teachers did not know of novels like this so now I've just ordered 1 million books from Rainbow Books. I don't know if it's good, so I'm not going to say yet. I haven't gotten them in yet, but they seemed to have a lot more French that were like these. And a lot of the ones I ordered for French were kind of like mysteries and stuff. But again, I'm really committed to having these be novels that were meant for, heritage readers. And so it is challenging to find ones that are at a fairly low level, but this one is almost like a children's book, this Gracias Omu, but it is beautiful. And so is this Escucha Mi Voz for your immigration units. And these ones here are just great. And there's a Selena one too that I'm trying to get, but they didn't have it at the publisher. But these are just beautiful, and they have Pablo Picasso. Oh, I also bought Pablo Picasso. I haven't put that one up yet. But these are lovely. So if you want to take a screenshot of that gives you an idea, or take a picture. Okay. Anything? All right. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to share this with you. We're really excited about this. I hope it gave you some ideas, take a little something, steal something from us, whatever you like, because we're happy to share. So thanks again.
Thank you, Haji Sensei. Good.
Hi.
Thank you. And thank you for reminding me to record. We have about half of this, and all of it is amazing, these ideas. Thank you. And I think we all agree that the real purpose of level 1 is to make students feel successful and to fall in love with your language. So thank you for bringing that forward. Real respect for level 1 teachers who have mixed level classes. And these are great ways. So I put a link in the chat. I can put it in again, but Robert and Maria were part of something last summer to really think about how we leverage New York City, how we leverage language, the sustainable development goals, all these big ideas. And you're all teaching in different areas. We have 5 boroughs. Each borough has so many different neighborhoods. So if you want to be part of this and maybe share resources, fill in that quick survey and we'll go from there. Okay, so thank you for all you do. We'll try to take one more little screenshot, if that's okay. Wanda, your hand's up. You're like real hands. What's up?
Yes, I see.
I
that
just wanted to mention that I put that rainbow books. I don't know if you can, that just might be the login. So you might
Yeah.
have to, anyway, Sunny asked me about Chinese. I was able to find some Chinese, but I haven't gotten them yet though. So I don't know what they're like, but I just picked some.
Thanks. And Jessica and I have a direct line, so anything she shares for the different languages, I will definitely share. Yes, Wanda, question.
Yes, because I haven't heard that they talk about standardized tests, how they measure accountability, because that's something that we have that limit all of that gamma, that spectrum that they show. We are limited to address it, to equip these kids to pass those tests.
So I'm just going to jump in here and then Jessica can respond. Just for context, in New York City, and I often hear this, right? Teachers feeling maybe constrained in what they can teach, not necessarily because of a textbook sequence, but these summative assessments that are given in June called the Second Language Proficiency Exam and the Checkpoint B exam. Now, as we shift to the new standards, and please know I am working very closely with the Office of Assessment so that instruction and assessment are interconnected. So if your students are already expressing their preferences, interpreting real things, that's going to translate into those assessments so that instruction and assessment don't feel so different. But Jessica, do you have any thoughts right now for teachers who feel this struggle?
So those exams, it sounds to me, they're called proficiency, but are they proficiency or are they like that you have to teach certain stuff by a certain time? Okay, yeah, that's definitely hard, but I would say that, I mean, in terms of the ideas I just showed you, at the very least, if you're trying to motivate students, if one of the, to use their language in a way that they'll remember it, then maybe whatever the topic is that you have to teach them for that exam. I don't know, what it might be. Of course, now my phone's going to ring. Just a second. That I would say that choose that topic to have a guest speaker come talk about, or choose that topic to have the kids go talk about to someone at the seniors who speak Spanish at the senior center, or you know what I mean? Like, you can still pull in some of the more fun ideas about it, or take the kids to the local restaurant, but say that they have to talk about that topic while they eat, like I would still try to pull in all the stuff that motivates them. I would say that in our units, we created those sort of assessments that are on point for those units. And then what we do in terms of accountability is my teachers give a proficiency interview to the students at the mid-year and final every year, and we do a writing prompt. And then just this year, I gave the apple in all of our level 3 and level 4 classes, because our issue was we had a lot of kids passing the seal of biliteracy, but they're all heritage and native speakers. So like we have heritage native speaker classes, but we really can't take credit for those kids. And my world language teachers weren't recommending their kids to test. I think they were shy about how they might do. And now we tested all those kids. We tested like 900 kids, and a lot of them have already passed multiple sections. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to boost my teachers. It's great PD because you can go in and listen to how your kids did and see what they wrote. And there's nothing better. I know it seems scary, but there is nothing better than an outside test. It doesn't have to be high stakes, but just to go in yourself and hear your kids' little voices and be like, oh man, I should have taught them that. I never taught them that. It really helps. So.
And I'm your track. That's what I'm oriented to. But this is my first year teaching here in high school. And like you said, the topic that we teach, nothing to do what they are being examined for. And then
so
curriculum.
Neither is a straight up, neither is the apple necessarily.
Right.
So there's
and
that.
So Yeah, so I've had these conversations with Jessica. Some of you might know about the Apple exam or the STAMP exam, these external third-party assessments that give a view, they really give us a sense of how your students do in interpretive reading, how they do in interpretive listening. They're getting a new context. So just like the SLP speaking prompts are a new situation, and we've removed all references to CDs and host families. We're trying to make them more 21st century responsive. But at the end of the day, we're asking students to do the same things. And so we want whatever you do in the class, if they're talking to the bodega owner at the street corner, that's a skill, and that they feel comfortable trying that, that's going to transfer onto the assessment. So we really want to think about, and I'll work with the Office of Assessment to make this more clear to you, but like the work you do in their class is preparing students to be proficient. That means to be able to use the language with a new situation. And so we don't want you to feel, and I implore you to really think about everything you do in the class is preparing students to be able to communicate. And so that shouldn't feel so separate from what they see on the assessment. So,
and it goes back to that sort of 21st, the sort of 21st century-esque whatever skills that we talk about with the elephant, right? Is what we really need to teach them now is not how to know exactly one topic, but how to see a topic they haven't seen. And we need to teach them things like looking for clues, looking for cognates, looking for numbers, using text functions like the fact that features, like bulleteds and bold. And like when you use infographics a lot with them, they learn those skills. When you have them watching a commercial that has lots of language they've never heard, but it has a few words they've heard, you're teaching them those essential skills of how to pick out and stay calm, pick out just what you can do. And that's really what they need. That's the biggest gift we can give them, is to those skills versus understanding every single word and every single, they're never gonna in the real world. So we could talk all day.
yeah, thanks. And I just put in the chat, and I know it's after 12:15, you might need to leave, but this is something I created with Maria Quintanilla, Kate Cook, a lot of folks last year, our proficiency fellows. And Jessica, I don't even know if I got to share this with you yet, but it's unit 0 that we'd love to see in September. What is my proficiency journey? It's exactly these ideas, right? It's one full lesson, which would probably actually take you 2 days. But get students to understand this path to proficiency. What do we actually do as, I think you probably inspired this, Jessica, actually. What's my path to proficiency? What does it mean to look for patterns and things like that? What are my targets in middle school? In 7th grade, what am I trying to get towards by the end of 7th grade, right? And so all of this is right here, these ideas, because this is how you get students feeling like, I want to try the language. This is what is realistic for me in 7th grade, right? And so all of these are here. We encourage you to use them. This specifically too, this proficiency notebook. I think a lot of you probably saw the digital proficiency notebook in the past, and teachers love that. A way for students, and it could be something you give to them in June. It's now June, right? And ask them to self-assess where they think they are and set goals, right? Your digital proficiency portfolio, it has the 3 Ps in here, getting students to see what we do as language learners. So click around on that, reach out with questions, be a language learner with a growth mindset from Leslie Gran. Here is my own path to proficiency. This is what we're going to do in the course. And so just think of these. So if you signed up on that survey that I set up, let's be in touch. Let's keep this conversation going, because this was a great session. Thank you, Jessica. And there's never enough time. So thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. So nice to see you. Wish we could be in person.
I know.
Happy birthday, Jill.
Arigato, ne?